Well, I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is grace. I love this topic. And some of you may be familiar with Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. He would say grace is a total givingness of the Spirit. And I say it's a gift that's been given regardless of whether you think you've earned it, regardless of whether you deserve it, regardless of anything that's been done or not done. It's a free gift of the Spirit. And one of the more popular Bible passages about grace is the story of the prodigal son. And in this story, a father has two sons. The younger son asks for his share of the inheritance early, and he gets it. And he proceeds to go out into the world, and he squanders it irresponsibly. He is out there for a long time such that he becomes destitute. So he doesn't think he's going to be taken back into the family. He crawls home and begs his father, please take me back. And to the son's surprise, he's not scorned by the father, but the father welcomes him with open arms and decides to throw a party for him. But the older son, who's jealous, this is getting too close to home for me. The older son who is jealous, he refuses to participate in this party. And the father tells the older son, hey, listen up, Santiago and Alonzo. Okay. The father tells the older son, you are ever with me, and all that I have is yours. But your younger brother was lost, and now he's found. I'm hearing the beginning of a lyrics, aren't you? So yes, I am a twin, and my brother reminds me that he's 1 minute older. He doesn't let me forget that. And, I do have some pieces of the prodigal son story in my life. You remember that I talked a little bit last week about some of my, or maybe the week before, about my history with substance abuse and addiction, and I squandered what little my parents gave me. It was everything to me, and I squandered it, and they welcomed me home anyway. And I was lost for a good 6 years, and I would not be standing here if it weren't for grace. And I know that many of you have stories like that. And I reflected, it's been a while since I've shared some of these interesting facts. I reflected on the times going back to early in life when grace was absolutely there, before I even knew to call it grace. And so here's a little list. In kindergarten, this kid was in front of me. We were standing in line. We had to line up for everything. I don't know why they made us stand in lines, but he had an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and he was swinging it around like this, and all of a sudden, my eye felt a little blurry as I felt the paper pass through my eye. And it turns out that there was a little cut in my eye, and the doctors said that if that cut were 1/4 of an inch closer to the middle of the pupil, I would have been blind for life. In the 3rd grade, I told you these, my mom was driving her 67 Cadillac sedan DeVille, and a motorcycle comes pulling out a side street in front of her. She slams on brakes. In those days, we didn't really wear seatbelts. I go forward, my head cracks the windshield. And there were 3 other people in the back of the car, and everybody says, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. She takes me to the doctor. The doctor, she's worried, how can he crack the windshield with his skull? And the doctor said it must have hit in just the right spot where soccer players head the ball, because otherwise we'd be talking about a very serious brain injury. I'm actually going to skip a few of these, though, because they're all pretty intense. I don't want to relive these. Michael's like, come on, I want to hear it. 9th grade. I had a girlfriend who was in 11th grade. She was driving, and she was driving her mom's Pontiac. She hits a parked 18-wheeler going about probably 45 miles an hour. The car is totaled. And we get taken away in T-collars. There's blood everywhere. I'm looking at the scars from that accident. And the medics say, we see cars like this, totaled like this. You should not have walked away. But every safety mechanism in that car caused things to buckle in an inverted way so it didn't crush you. And even though I had shards of glass all over my body, the glass, we didn't go through the glass. So it was a miracle. Here's a less violent one. Jen, I have a slide for this one. I know you can't really read this. This is in the 8th grade. I was the valedictorian, and a half an hour before I was supposed to give my valedictorian speech, which that is, I lost the speech. And I remained calm, and I kind of got away from I walked away from the auditorium, and I said, where was I walking? Mom dropped me off out in front of the school. So I walked out in front of the school, and there it is, a little piece of paper flying and floating on the grass. So I grabbed it, and it's amazing. So thank you, Jen. So I still have that piece of paper. So there's so many more I could share, but fast forward, grace has a way of picking you up. Protecting you, certainly, protecting you, but it also has a way of picking you up and putting you from one life situation into another life situation. So I'm the minister, part-time minister of 2 Unity churches, and both were intensely odd grace moments. I mean, odd in a good way. The first one was I was not a minister. I did not have the goal of being a minister at that point in my life. I didn't know how it would be possible. I was working a full-time marketing job in the Silicon Valley, and I was doing this activity called drum circles for corporations and communities, and I just happened to have been hired by a Unity church to do a drumming workshop. They liked it so much that one day the minister couldn't make it to service and they didn't have a guest speaker available. They called me and they said, hey, would you like to give a talk? This was 10 years ago. And so I did. And it turned out that minister hired me a few times a year, but she never met me. She just heard, oh yeah, he's pretty decent, so put him up there as a guest speaker. And when she retired 3 years later, I was getting a phone call from her, and I wasn't returning it, and someone said, David, you really need to return that phone call. And she said, there is a process, did you know, where you could do ministry and training, and you could be the minister of record for us while going through school. So that happened, and I went through school, and it was ordained a year ago, almost a year ago, actually. And it was like the universe knew. I wasn't asking for this. I wasn't seeking it. I wasn't putting out the intentions. The universe knew it was going to grab me and put me over here. And finally, so I was still working the full-time marketing job, as some of you may know this story. And on March 14th, I passed my ordination panels, meaning I'm done with 5 years of ministerial school. I'm a minister, ordained minister for life. The next morning, my marketing job lays me off. So I'm thinking, hey, that's a little too coincidental there. I think I need to see if the marketing thing was not feeding my soul, you see, and I was not, the value exchange was not equitable. I was just imposter. I was just marking time in that role. Lucky to be there. But I wanted to see if something else was available. And lo and behold, this church was looking for a minister, and Jen and I visited in the end of March, and things happened, and this dream came true. So it's like the universe saying, all right, David, I'm going to pick you up like a little doll in a dollhouse. I'm just going to put you over there. And you may not even see the blessing. Have you ever had that happen in your life? It may be leaving a relationship. You don't see the blessing at the time. You're cursing it at the time. Now, this, obviously, that wasn't one of those experiences for me with Unity, but there are situations where you don't understand. And years later, you think, that's the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me. How wonderful. That is how grace works. So, there's a movie, I still can't find the exact movie where the title of this comes from, but it's "The world bends itself in half so that two people can meet." Likewise, don't you feel like the universe bends itself in half so that you can be aligned with the situation that you're in, perhaps with the partner you're with, perhaps introducing yourself to a new opportunity or to a mentor? The world just, things happen, and that's grace too. And the thing I notice about grace is, despite all these evidences that I gave you, grace can still be pretty hard to grasp because it doesn't gel with a logical mind. You don't learn about it in physics in high school. Grace is out beyond the law of attraction because it's beyond what you're asking for. Have you ever gotten something, and I'm sure it happens all the time, you're asking for something, you're looking for something, and the universe gives you something that's even better, that is even better than what you were picturing and hoping for. When Jen and I were looking for an apartment to live in San Francisco, in South San Francisco, the whole area, we ended up with this place that was so cool, this rental that was just amazing and beyond what we hoped was possible. And that's the way grace works. And I think some people call it fourth dimensional work. Grace is fourth dimensional work because it sits outside of this realm that we learn about in school. It sits outside of scientific thinking. And it affirms to me that something more than the ordinary is going on. To me, grace is a language that God speaks to you, perhaps saying something like this: hey, this is God. Remember, everything is a miracle. So check this out. God is speaking to you in these ways. And because grace goes beyond scientific thinking, it's hard to expect it as a man. We're surprised, but we don't fully expect it. And I think if there's one takeaway from my talk today, it's we need to expect grace. I was reading something that Marianne Williamson wrote called, this is a takeaway from a book called Everyday Grace. And she said, "The world trains us to be on the lookout for all that is not magic. It trains us to be on the lookout for fault. It trains us to be on the lookout for blame. But when your thinking has been converted to the spiritual perspective, you are then on the lookout for the blessing. You are then on the lookout for the innocence and the good in people. You are then on the lookout for grace." So I love that. And she basically says that we must unlearn this dominant paradigm of we have been taught, and this is fairly recent. She calls it, I'm paraphrasing what she said, it's from a recent sliver in time. If you take all the time from when humans were on the planet, they believed in magic, they believed in ceremony, they believed in ritual. And all of a sudden, at the very end of time, here comes the Industrial Revolution, scientific thought, and we're trained to believe that that's a bunch of poppycock. Is that still a word? And we're trained to marginalize those beliefs in magic, aren't we? That's not magic that's really happening. That's just your imagination. So it's why, Marianne Williamson says, books like Harry Potter were the rage because people still wanted to believe in magic. They wanted to be in that space. But science has been causing us to doubt our own belief in magic, and we've got to unlearn that. We've got to deconstruct that belief, and that's why we come to places like this every Sunday, to deconstruct these beliefs that don't serve our souls. So, I want to talk a little bit about, so how does grace show up? It's right under our noses. And one of the ways I talked about is grace shows up maybe just right in time, like right before my speech. Or you're about to be late to the most important appointment in the world, and somehow you get to that appointment on time. Ever been like late catching a flight? Well, I go, no, you guys are. Sometimes you miss it, but sometimes you are the last person through the door and they let you in. Ever had them stop a plane for you? I mean, that is grace. And it shows up in small ways and in big ways. And Scott Peck, the author Scott Peck, calls these mini graces or God winks. They're simple synchronicities. How many of you have your favorite number show up all the time on the clock? 1111 or whatever it is. My mom's favorite number, it was her apartment number in the final days, 404. And that number shows up in uncanny ways. I wake up in the middle of the night, I turn over, 404. Oh, hi, Mom. And why can't that be real? Oh, David, it's just a coincidence. There's no such thing as magic. There's no such thing as grace, right? Right? So we have to keep on a lookout for these things. Grace is Phoenix driving he's a new driver, and he drives everywhere, all over the place right now, and he drives fast. But the fact that he's okay and that the car is okay, it's grace. Who was raised with the saying, God looks out for babies and fools? My mom, for my mom, she says, God looks out for babies and drunks, okay? And isn't it the truth? So there's an interesting, I want to share this. I wasn't able to share the video itself, but Michael helped me share the audio. This is grace showing up as protection. And this is something I found on YouTube this week, and I hope you can hear it. It's about the planet being protected in myriad ways, and I checked all these out. It's really true. Here you go.
The only reason humans exist is because we have an entire army of cosmic bodyguards, starting with the moon, whose massive size relative to Earth creates stable seasons and tides, while also absorbing countless impacts that would have hit us instead. Then Jupiter, our solar system's gravitational bouncer, is so massive it acts like a cosmic vacuum cleaner, capturing or redirecting space debris that might otherwise head our way. Without Jupiter, we'd face up to 10,000 times more asteroid impacts. Next is the Sun, which creates the heliosphere, a massive bubble of charged particles extending far beyond Pluto that shields us from deadly galactic radiation. Even Earth's magnetic field is working overtime, deflecting solar radiation that would otherwise strip away our atmosphere. Our ozone layer filters UV radiation that would otherwise destroy DNA. If any single one of these shields failed, complex life on Earth might be impossible. We're essentially living in a cosmic fortress with multiple layers of security, and most people have no idea how lucky we are. The only reason humans exist.
Isn't that cool? It's still playing. It's a British voice, so it has more, impact and drama and believability and all that. But it's true. It's true. So let me transition this to a close, and I'm gonna ask you this: how can we tune in to grace? If it's true that grace is all around us, that grace got us in really wonderful ways from point A to point B, if it's true that the things that are happening in our cells are so complex, and the interactions that are happening in our body right this moment, that have happened during this service, are so amazing that volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of books and movies can be written about what happened inside of your body in the last couple of minutes. It's just amazing. So I'll ask this: how do we tune into grace? How can we be more receptive and more grateful for grace and more aware of it? Number one, we need to notice it. We need to take notice of the God winks. We need to take notice of things that happen before you leave this building are led by grace. Notice it. And the final way is to trust it. This is the one that's maybe a little bit harder. We need to trust that it's not just chance. You know, the chaos theory, there's something called chaos theory, and the theory basically says it's not chance. It's not chance. Who was it that said God doesn't play dice with the universe? Was it Einstein? Yeah, something like that. So I'll read this in closing. To the point that grace is a law, it's not a freak occurrence. And I'm going to ask Michael to come up because he's going to play after this. Michael Beckwith says, everything that is necessary for the quantum leap into a greater expression of ultimate reality has been provided to you. You have only to stand in agreement that you will embrace a new beginning to your life, a new law for your life, and that's called the law of grace. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.